Welcome to the seventh episode of the Frontend Coffee Break, a podcast where we take a break from our everyday lives, grab a cup of joe, and discuss about different front-end related topics. Like always, I have here Ricard with me. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Chucha. I'm very good. You?
Could be better, but I cannot say that I am bad. No, I'm good. I'm good. Well, let's go into today's topic. Today's topic, we said we would talk a little bit about public speaking, knowledge sharing, and why you should try it. Today, we had inside the company what we call our front end monthly meeting, which is a meeting that takes, as its name says, once a month inside the company, where we see different topics, not only topics from that concern our own community, like, for example, maybe workshops that are coming up along and the work that other people have been doing in different areas. We get to know these kind of things. We get to know any news that it's related to the community, but we also see presentations about some of our colleagues of the work that they have been doing, or maybe an interesting topic that they want to share. And today's meeting, as always, it's quite interesting because you see all sorts of people talking about their own topic, and it's something that, although usually we have a lot of more senior oriented people, we also see from time to time more junior oriented profiles, and they talk a little bit about they've learned, or maybe the project that they're working in. And the first question would be, is it important to participate in these kind of events, or are these events important inside the community? What's your take on that?
So you're pitching to the choir. So we're doing this podcast and we're sharing knowledge. Of course, I feel it's important, but it can be scary, no? I mean, if you're a junior developer and you're in front of a really senior crowd, yeah, what do you want to talk about? It's not easy.
No, and this is something that's constantly when I'm trying to motivate people to do them, is like, what am I going to talk to about? And I usually, what I tell them is that this events are not only oriented for senior people. These events are for all the community, and the community is formed by all sorts of people, or people in different grades. If you talk about, I don't know, maybe if you talk about the work that you've been doing in Flex, you would say, well, who's going to be interested in? Well, maybe there are going to be people that are interested in that, because it's something that it's going to be new for them. And sometimes this is also works, and I've been in that position when you're listening to something that it's basic, and you say, okay, that's true, I haven't worked on that for a while. It's nice to have a reminder, or it's just nice to see the people that the effort that they put, or the way that they do the presentations.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's what also I encourage to my proteges to just go in and talk about your stuff, your project, and even if it's basic or no basic, it doesn't really matter because there are other juniors around, or maybe, as you said, some seniors might not know of. Maybe they haven't played with that technology, right? So definitely, it's important to do public speaking because on your front end career, you will have to do it eventually, right?
Yes, yes.
Or on a maybe bigger scenery or scene, or maybe smaller stuff, talking in front of a client team. But definitely, it's something that you will come across, and it's nice to have. Nice to have.
No, definitely. I mean, even from the beginning of your career, you sometimes have to present this to your team. You have to present the work that you've been doing, maybe even, and you're already, or maybe everyone's already doing something like this. Like, for example, just let's talk about the stand-ups. In the end, the stand-ups that or the dailies, depending on what you call them, these are usually moments in which you say, well, I've been working in, well, depending on the stand-up, of course, I've been working on this, and this is what I'm going to be working on. I need help on this or not. It's, you're doing a brief presentation, and usually this is very, how to say, a very relaxed environment, and most people don't realize that. Well, I don't know if most people, but I think that people sometimes don't realize that. But just this kind of stand-ups, these kind of meetings are actually public speaking. You are practicing your skills about your communication skills, and
You are correct. I think when you think about public speaking, you imagine a stage and a conference and 100 people sitting in the audience and watching at you. But definitely, yeah, sure. Project presentations, stand-ups, when you present maybe the end of the sprint and you have your own stuff to showcase, right? That's also a sort of public speaking in a smaller format, but the theory applies. Yeah.
yeah, and these are what as we call safe environments, but eventually I think that one of the things that we end up doing, it's very important for us to know how to express ourselves in public, and these kind of internal things are usually a safe place to do it. But not only at as maybe someone says, why should I know how to express myself beyond a stand up if I only want to be a developer? Well, only it's like my career path is going to be development because I love development. I want to be like a high level developer. Why should I worry about being able to be good at public speaking? What's your take on that?
Ah, yeah. I mean, definitely. I think again, even if you are very good technically, right? You are an excellent technician on JavaScript or whatever it is. Eventually, you will have to use your soft skills, your public speaking skills to whatever to convince a client, to convince a team, to convince somebody that you have to maybe go that route or choose that architecture. Even okay, maybe you're not client facing, maybe you are internally facing, but you have to align with requirement engineers and quality assurance guys. And in the end, you got to be comfortable of yeah, standing up on a meeting room with 1 or 20 people and then just express yourself. So you will encounter it for sure.
And for example, one of the projects that I worked in a couple of years ago, it was common that each developer presented the work that they did during the sprint. And usually there was most of the time, especially as a front end, what you do is very visual, because you can be a backend developer and the work that you did is like, yeah, I changed the way that the tables are done, or they're being, or the data is processed, or something that it's not necessarily something that you visually that has visual impact. But as a front end developer, usually most of the work or a lot of the work that you do has visual impact, and you can show something. So the presentations for the front end developers in that team were usually very they had a lot of things to showcase.
Very
So every
visual.
single yes, very visual, and every single one of the developers had to do a little bit of a 2 to 5 minute presentation about the work that they did. And it was nice. I mean, there were people that you could see at the beginning were a little bit more shy. They were very brief. They didn't know exactly how to show what they were showing, but eventually, with practice, they became good at it. And the nice thing about this is that, for example, it doesn't matter that you do fantastic work if you don't showcase it to the client. Maybe the client doesn't really understand what has been done, or is not able to appreciate the work that has been done, and maybe it's like, yeah, you did this, but whatever. So it's important that you present what you did, and the client will be able to appreciate this kind of
Yeah, yeah, and it's not trivial. I think like sprint presentations, as you were saying, I've done it in the past, and it's not trivial because you know that your senior colleagues are in the room as well, like project manager and people that maybe have been in the project for a long time, and you're just getting started, and there's pressure, to it, and then definitely practice, as you say, practice makes perfect at the end. And the environments are important. I think you don't want to, if you've never done that before, you don't want to go into a conference stage maybe and then do, I mean, people do that. Some people crazy do that. I wouldn't do that. I would prefer to do maybe smaller stuff, safe environments like we do in our front-end monthlies and lighting talks. That's more of a, smaller audience, and it's easier, definitely.
now that you were mentioning this about the practicing. This is something that I learned at the beginning of doing these kind of presentations about the work that you did to the client, or to the project manager, to the rest of the team, is that when you're presenting something, always practice exactly what you're going to present beforehand. Never go, as they say, I think in English the term is cold turkey. Never go just like, yeah, I did this, I'm just going to sit down and showcase. No, 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 no. Always do a test run or two about the things that you're going to showcase, and always follow that.
Even if you do a test run and it goes wrong, I mean,
It can go wrong.
live demos are impossible to do. But definitely, I mean, you gotta give. I mean, I don't know in what scenarios you would be so confident, so like yeah, relaxed that you can just wing it and not practice it, not go through the key points you're gonna talk about. Definitely great great tips here to John.
Yes.
Please rehearse before.
Before, yeah, rehearse what you're going to showcase, and always try to have a plan B. And worst case scenario, sometimes for example, when I do presentations, I take screenshots while I'm practicing. I take screenshots and save them somewhere, so that in whatever scenario suddenly it's not working, I can always show the screenshots of the thing that I was supposed to showcase, because it has happened to me. It has happened like last moment, the server is not working, and well, the backup, it's always try to do it in local, in your local instance, which is not that encouraged. But then also the local instance, for whatever reason, because the service or whatever is not working and you cannot showcase it. I've been in the situation in which I'm showcasing images that I took, screenshots that I took about how it was supposed to work. Maybe even, for example, one option is to, and this is a good way to practice and to have a good backup, is while you're doing the test run, record yourself, record the presentation. If it's online, for example, record whatever you want to showcase and just save it. I mean, maybe you're not going to use it or show it, but at least it helps you to have like a backup, like, okay, this is not working. You could say I recorded a video, I'm going to show the video of how it's supposed to be, and you can go with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember we haven't talked yet about the summit concept. We'll do that in a moment. But on one of those occasions where I had to present, I did a talk there. I rehearsed, man, like maybe 5 or 6 times the whole thing, because I was installing node packages on local, and I was doing some sort of integration with GitHub, and locally it was working like 6 out of 6. It worked fantastically. But of course, I don't know what happened during the live demo. I don't know. Maybe I think I skipped a step or removed something that it just wasn't working, right? And then the clock is ticking, and people are watching your screen while nothing is working. And I had to just skip ahead and try to move along, and it worked, because then people gave me feedback. I said, "Hey, great save there. You could manage plan B, whatever." But yeah, it's challenging, and yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes, as you say, when it doesn't matter how much you prepare, sometimes things are going to
Yeah.
to go wrong, and it's horrible. And moving a little bit on on this, and learning how to do presentations and such, and knowledge sharing, what experiences do you have besides, for example, we have here at Cognizant Netcentric, we have this Frontend Monthly, where we share knowledge, we share projects that we've worked in, we share topics that we're interested in. But I've worked in other places, and a few years before here also, that we had different types of knowledge sharing sessions. Which knowledge sharing sessions could, for example, have you been participating, or you remember working on in?
I think the very first knowledge sharing I had, like during my professional career, was actually writing blog posts.
Okay.
So I was, back to our first episode in this podcast, now episode number 1, writing your own blog, your own site. I think the first notion I remember, like, maybe 15 years ago, whatever, was like, something that I couldn't solve via Stack Overflow or whatever it is, I would just blog it on my personal blog, just, for community, healthcare, and helping out the community. That was my first initials, knowledge sharing. And then I remember in another company we had what it was called Brown Bag Fridays, where we would brown bag in terms of like
Okay.
I think it's a term for food, like when you have food on a brown bag.
To go.
Exactly. So they would bring pizzas or whatever on a Friday, and then somebody would present the topic. Maybe during lunch, somebody would stand up and say, "Hey, I remember a guy talking about the whole Kanban boards and how we could change our agile methods to use Kanban, right?" And yeah, that was one of the things because it was a small team, it could be done in a small team. Now, of course, at Cognizant Netcentric, it's impossible to handle 100 people for lunch and do presentations. We rather do summit talks or front-end monthlies.
Well, this is interesting because also one of the first experiences I had doing knowledge sharing and public speaking inside a work environment was something like that. It was one of the first companies that I worked doing web development per se. And we had the same thing. On Fridays, we would get together in the afternoon. And usually we had a little bit of homework, you would say, that we were giving or we decided to take over during the week. And we could choose a topic, or there would be a topic of interest. I mean, it really, the topic itself, it wasn't the most important thing. The important thing was just to do the presentation. And then we had like an hour that we took turns do a presentation. And then, well, after we went on for drinks with all the colleagues, it was very nice. But the interesting thing there is that the dynamic that we had back then was that you did the presentation and then you received immediately feedback from the people that were in the presentation, not only about the topic itself, questions, the typical Q&A, like, hey, how does this work? Have you used it? What's your opinion about it? But also we received feedback regarding on how well we did. We had feedback from even, I mean, there were colleagues from all grades sitting there, and they all gave you feedback. Like, for example, be careful with your hands because you were constantly grabbing your hands like this, and you noticed that you were nervous. If you're nervous, maybe you could do. And we gave tips regarding this. Or you were completely static and you didn't move from your location. I mean, this wall presentation that we did in the office live. It's like, try to relax yourself, move a little bit more. And so it was very nice to to receive and give the feedback regarding on how the presentation went along. And I think that it helped a lot of people, including me, grow as precisely as someone that can do a little bit of a public speaking. It was very fascinating.
I mean, that's impressive to actually get feedback on the same moment and people
Yes.
not be afraid of giving it, because here, it's hard. Cognizant Netcentric, I mean, I think we pride ourselves for our core value, giving us that feedback, but still it's hard. We do it via Google Forms, maybe anonymous, maybe not, and it's hard to get good feedback. Yeah.
And for example, one thing that I would suggest to anyone, it doesn't matter the company, if you go to such a presentation and you care about it, and you see that there's things that could be improved, try to get in contact with the person. Like, for example, the person that you saw that were giving the presentation, and try to get in contact with them and say, hey, I love the presentation, I love the topic, or well, whatever the impression that you had. Say, hey, but I would like to give you a little bit of, if you don't mind, I would like to give you a little bit of pointers regarding on things that I saw that you could improve, or things that I think that you did quite well. And then you just give your feedback to them. Of course, don't. I was just, when I was saying this, it just came into mind, like, don't give unsolicited advice. No, but try to approach the person and say, hey, if you don't mind, I'd like to give you a few pointers regarding on things that I think you could improve
Always
on the presentation.
constructive, of course. Yeah, constructive. So now we're talking about the knowledge sharing. But again, so let's be devil's advocate here. I'm working in a company. I am doing a great job. I'm on my team. And I just, my day-to-day is fantastic. I get defects or I get new change requests and I do them and it's all good. Why should I bother with knowledge sharing? Because people would think sometimes, if I don't knowledge share, I'm doing job protecting. They cannot fire me because nobody knows what I know. So I keep working on this project or this company forever. Why would I knowledge share?
I mean, this is a topic I think I that we've discussed before, and I think that keeping knowledge it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't even help you. You might say, hey, I'm going to keep this thing to myself, and I'm not going to tell anyone about it, and I'm not going to be the only person that can do it. Well, eventually the company will find out how to do it. I mean, it's not really about that. I mean, that's just a very toxic behavior. But I would always encourage about knowledge sharing, because it first of all, and we've said it, the same thing as the blog, it is something, when you do it, it makes you, or it helps you grow as a developer, for example, because it you practice, or how do you say this? You practice more on the topic. You get to be more of an expert in the topic, and you help other people do the same thing. And by other people sharing their knowledge, or encouraging other people to share what they know, you learn a lot. I mean, this is something that is beneficial to all parties.
I agree. That's the key. I mean, how many times have you just Googled something for development? I mean, how to do stuff, and then you get a Stack Overflow answer, it's a good answer, or you get the blog, or you get the site. So it's giving back to the community, so everyone in the web development community can just feed off each other and just get things done.
Yeah, and this is something that is very important. If no one shared their knowledge, there wouldn't be. Imagine that there's no Stack Overflow. It's like the typical joke, like the moment that Google stopped working or Stack Overflow stopped working, the developer productivity just
But
went
it's
down.
not a joke. Not a joke. I
No,
mean,
it's not.
I constantly Google stuff because I don't remember, I don't know, the third parameter of a function or how this array function works. I mean, yes, you get to Google stuff. You got to go for the documentations, and sure, blogs and Stack Overflow is one of the sources.
But if you didn't, we didn't have that, it would be a bit of it would be harder. Our work would be definitely harder.
You've worked before Stack Overflow was born. You were there. I was also there, and definitely it was a little bit harder. You had to go to the official docs, W3C, and things
Yes.
like that, right? So it's way harder to find stuff because you got to go to the source, but it's doable. But again, now it's so much easier because people I mean, if you phrase your answers, like, sorry, your questions correctly, you just get the same thing on a Stack Overflow or a blog. How do I split an array by whatever? Boom, and you get it, and you're done. So yeah,
And it's interesting, for example, to also to read the answers, not all of the answers or most of the answers, because they give you different insights, and you can learn a lot about, for example, someone posting an answer that is not really acceptable, and people responding to that answer saying, "Hey, this is not the best way to do it because of," and then they tell you why. So there, it's by reading these kind of Q and A's or this places, you learn a lot about development. And even if you don't remember them immediately, you at least end up with a notion and being able to find out this thing before. I've been in situations in which I've known, like, oh, okay, this is something that I know I've already solved one day. I don't remember exactly how, but I do remember more or less the things that were involved, because you remember the answers that you read, and you can use that to find it again. But in the end, doing knowledge sharing is important, because it allows you to grow and allows the people around you to grow. And if the people around you grow, they will give you back that as well, in the
yeah,
sense
yeah.
that everyone benefits from knowledge sharing it. And if you have, and it's really, I think it's very important to encourage an environment in which knowledge sharing is commonplace.
I agreed. So what else do we do at Cognizant Netcentric? And do we need to introduce what the summit talk is, or what? I think it's cool. I think not many people companies do that. Sure, Google does it, but we are smaller. So what's a summit, Chucha?
Well, the summit is an event that we do. We used to do it once a year. Now we do it twice a year, in which we get together as a company and we share. Well, basically, we do a lot of knowledge sharing. We also do a little bit about what has been happening during the year and what's going to happen around the next year. But I think that one of the interesting things are that everyone's open to do a talk there. There's different types of talks that could be more extensive, an hour long talks, or maybe even lightning talks that last, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And it's a great opportunity to, in a safe environment, practice um, practice speaking and also share the knowledge that you have. You've participated, right? Well, you've mentioned that you
I
participated.
have, I have, yes. I am. I think you did as well, right?
Yeah, and I enjoy it quite a bit. It can be challenging. It doesn't matter how much experience that you have.
It is challenging, and there's many people in the audience. Even in the past live sessions we had, and now the online as well. When you see the counter at 500, it takes you aback a little bit.
And it's a bit different, doing it live than doing it online. Live in the sense that with a
Of
live
course, yeah.
audience, or doing it online. I between the both, I definitely like better the live audience. I enjoy more being there with the live people and being able to interact with them and see their reactions, or maybe see who's falling asleep. I don't know.
Right, so it's easier for the speaker to get like feedback and interaction, and how to maybe change the dynamic of the talk, but it's way harder for those that are starting, because if you're starting with this and you just get on a stage with 200 people, that's super, like you're sweating a lot. So if you're doing it online, you just don't look at the camera or whatever, and you're that's it, easy.
No, but I would recommend, if you have the opportunity of doing it live, that
Yeah,
to try it out. Even
totally,
if it's in with your colleagues, your friends, it's I think it's important to get that experience
no doubt.
also as well. Now, talking about experience, how did you begin, for example, in this? Could you tell us a little bit about the way that the path that you took doing presentations and this kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to tell. I mean, I haven't really done any super big events or something that you don't think about. Yeah, camps, JS camps, things like that. No, I haven't talked in a big stage. I would like to do it. Let's see. But yeah, as I said before, starting very small, I'm a very small company doing, as you said, sprint presentations and team presentations, maybe new feature things that I discovered and wanted to share. I asked them, hey, do you want to guys learn about this? And we did some sort of sessions with that, also with clients. I mean, when clients came to the office, again on a smaller company, and they wanted to see how the tool was working, right? More of a demo, they would come here, and I would prepare a presentation. Of course, you would have to rehearse and practice, and then fast forward to now, no, to Cognizant Netcentric, where we do these lightning talks, and that's also very yeah, I love to do them.
But how about school?
School, yes, I don't talk about school. School is a time of my life I need to forget. No, just kidding. Just kidding. But no. I mean, I grew a lot, like personally, in terms of public speaking at work. At the school, I didn't want to. I mean, I think you know how school it is. It's not easy. So yeah.
I was one of those kids that loved doing presentations
Oh
at
right,
school.
not
that's
me.
that's when I started, but it was I don't know exactly at one point in school, high school, I think that I started doing that you had to do a presentation, and I started doing a presentation because
It's
my friends were a little bit shyer, and I mean it's normal. They're people that can be quite shy, and my friends were shy and they didn't want to do it, and I said, yeah, I don't mind, and that's when I started doing a little bit of I don't know if I would call it public speaking. I did
oh, it was,
participate
but
in public speaking,
you
but
started very early. Yeah. Lucky you.
yeah, I liked it quite a bit, and that went on doing college and everything. And but I've always had a very big interest in teaching. So when I graduated, I worked as a teacher's assistant, and I had the opportunity of do some classes, to teach some classes. And before starting doing web development in a more serious way, I was a teacher for a couple of years. So I think that's where I got to practice a lot. It can be quite interesting and intimidating to be a teacher,
No doubt.
but I think that's where I got the most of the experience. And once I started working and I started doing the Friday things, I mean, there were still a lot of things to learn. It doesn't matter how long you've been working. There's always things that you can learn, things that you didn't realize that you were doing, and that you can work on. I mean, this is something that it doesn't matter how much experience you have. Usually, you can still learn and a little bit more, get to be better. Then there's some people that are just incredible when they're doing presentations, but that comes because of not only talent but also practice.
Yeah,
These are
hard
not
work.
things that, yeah, these are not people. Most of the time, are not people that just, as you say, wing it. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do the presentation. I'm gonna see how it comes. No. They do like they work on it very much, and those are the greatest presentations, I think. Of course, there's always exceptions. I think that you presentations that are done like on the fly, but usually it's practice, practice, practice. Well, I think that that's all the time that we have for this session. It's interesting. I mean, if you for the people that are listening to us, so what's your experience doing public presentations? Where did you start, or share a little bit of a story if you like with us, to see what's your experience doing this kind of things.
Yeah, horror stories if you can about about public speaking, how and those tricks that everybody talks about imagining the audience naked and things like that. I want to know more. So please share.
Yes, please do. Thank you very much. That's all that we have for today. Ricard, thank you very much,
Thank you so much, Chucho.
and see you next time.
Bye bye.